Oh, 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 oh. Hey everybody, welcome into the Creed of Crypto live stream. I am Broke Boi Crypto, and I have here with me, as always, my friend and co-host Crypto Ewok. We have a big show for you tonight. What is the thumbnail? I forgot what it is already. We're talking about where are we headed? Is the top already in for this crypto market in 2024? Has Bitcoin topped for the year? Are we going to go above it? Because shit just seems not fun right now. Stuff isn't fun. We're seeing prices come down on everything. Obviously, people within the PulseChain ecosystem are not exactly happy right now. It depends on who you are. Some people are just fine, but some people are upset. But that's kind of going, reverberating out throughout crypto. Just Bitcoin, Ethereum continues to kind of bleed against BTC. So we're going to talk about a lot of those emotions tonight. We got a poll question in there for you. What BTC scenario do you prefer for this bull market? And we're going to expound on this a little bit and kind of fill in the blanks on like what we mean by some of these options. But do you think that we've topped? What scenario do you prefer? That we've topped so far for this year? We're not going to see another high. New high around 90K or so in the fall, or a blow off top in late 2024. Which of those scenarios would you prefer? And then we'll kind of get to what all those may mean. Shout out to Philly in the chat, Pulse Believer, DJ and Moonboy, of course, Philly, KD, Caleb Brantley, our favorite country singer, and a whole bunch more. We also got on the back end, I wanted to give him a shout out. He's watching right now. We got a producer to the show now in our new night, new time slot, Wednesdays at 6:30. Shout out producer Jake. He is up doing the work that we really need done right now. So shout out Jake in the chat. We appreciate that. And Ewok, how are you? How are you feeling about the markets and everything this evening here in our new time?
Oh, new time, new place, same bat channel though. Doing good, man. It's Wednesday, back in the I always kind of preferred Wednesday more than middle of the week. We would get a little bit more news to work with rather than Tuesdays. And it's boring. It's boring. It's going to be boring. We got to get used to it, guys. This is accumulation time. And if you're not accumulating, I don't know what to say. Like if you're not using these prices of just sideways movement to fill up your bags, I know it sucks. It's hard to do at this point because you're not seeing anything happen. But there are so many people that are getting shaken out and they are losing their buying power. They're not going to be able to hurt the price later. So, only the steadfast will survive here, and got to be one of them, or you're going to get left behind too. So, yeah. Otherwise, good, man. It's still daylight out. We started a little earlier.
Reflection hit me, yeah. Yeah, and you're so right. Like whenever everybody you scroll through Twitter and like look at everybody pissed off about the prices, it's like, well, hey, don't blame me. I mean, I've just been sitting here accumulating now for however many years. We're just sitting here in the bear/bull market, accumulating, holding, not selling anything, and waiting for things to move along just like everybody else. And we have a YouTube channel. That's one thing I have to say. Like I don't get like upset, I guess, too often, but and you and I certainly don't by any stretch do the most for like the PulseChain ecosystem or anything to do with crypto. There's people that do eons beyond what we do. But, at least we are here every week. We show up. We have a channel. Some people you see on Twitter are just bitching and complaining all the time and really offer absolutely nothing at all. So
sure,
keep that in mind. Like maybe do something about it,
Yep. So. I mean, we do what we can. We talk about it. We bring the news to people. There's always something happening that we can try and find and give you a little bit of news on it and share what we know about it. I mean, this started out as a channel for more novice crypto people, and I know a lot of the people in the chat have grown leaps and bounds. So it's pretty cool to see that too, to see them come along the journey that we've been on and grow along with us. So.
Yeah, totally agree. Let's hop into where we're at with the main market right now, because it is, and there goes the camera again for some reason. I'll fix that in a minute. But with the market right now, so BTC, we had forgot to even say this, but the having has actually happened now. So that has officially occurred anyway. And to really the to no one's notice. I mean, it just kind of happens and you move on. So that has occurred. I was just going to pull up the prices. We have BTC sitting here at a little bit of a dip today, 64.2K. ETH, maybe holding its own on this dip a little bit, but it's still been bleeding against BTC. It's at 3150 or so right now. As far as where we sit there, it's still kind of consolidating in the range that it's been in is BTC. It sounds horrible to many, but the best scenario for us really, and you and I have kind of been talking about this, Ewok, but the best scenario, kind of going back to the poll question that we set for this bull market, would be to kind of range here for the rest of the year. The extreme good version of what could happen the rest of this year that I don't think many people are thinking is going to happen or hoping is going to happen, but I actually would appreciate it, is the one scenario in our poll where I say basically we've topped for the year and we just kind of hang out in this area for the rest of the year, because that will very likely mean that 2025 gets insane and then we go even more insane into 2026. Now I know that's excruciating in the meantime. I mean, it already is excruciating for our ecosystem, but people just waiting for things to happen and stuff like that. I know time is shaking people out, but that really would be like the most bullish thing. Now, the more how we drew it up type scenario would be that we do kind of do the scenario we pointed out in the poll where we get to maybe 85K, something like that later on this year and continue on with a normal cycle. And then, of course, the left translated, which we've talked a lot about, would be a blow off top just later this year again, which I don't think any of us really want that much. So, yeah, what do you make of that? I mean, we want the market overall to consolidate like this for a while and maybe be boring for the rest of this year or for the most of it. But, yeah, what do you make of those scenarios and what do you see, Ewok?
Well, I was looking for a post. I can't remember who put it up the other day. It might have even been Trevon. But he mentioned that, or he showed a chart of like 90 days after the halving and what the price correlation was with it as far as the date went, and then what it was like 90 days after. And each time it's up a little bit. I mean, we're going to see price go up. It's just going to be very, very slow. I think, again, I think that's good. We don't want to run parabolic and have one of those blow off tops. I don't think anyway. It could do what it did in, what was that, 2021, where it did top out in April, and then we had a double top in November. So that is a possible scenario, but we've got the rest of this year to just kind of slowly grow. The supply shock is basically what's happening because the halving, and there's not as much hitting the market, but you realize going from 12 BTC down to 6 was considerably a lot more than 6 down to 3. So, I think it's going to be a little bit more gradual. I don't think the supply shock is going to hit as hard because of that. I mean, there's obviously it's worth a lot more than what it was then, but it's truly the amount of Bitcoin that's actually hitting the markets from the miners. And, it's not decreasing by that much. So, yeah, I mean, it's just, I think we just consolidate here throughout the rest of the year. We're going to have a few pullbacks too. What it has to be in order to stay healthy. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the way I see it playing out. I do think we're going to start to see Ethereum catch up in that little ratio between, Bitcoin, ETH ratio. I think we start to see that maybe pick up a little bit more. Which is also healthy because it's been on the downside for quite a while. So we kind of need that to happen at the same time. But yeah, that's how I see it playing out.
Great point. Yeah, we need that ETH thing to happen, and that's the thing. Like in this recent dump, we've seen ETH go from, it was over 0.05 or whatever it is to BTC, and now we've seen it drop below that even. And the real area that we're looking for ETH to close on BTC for like full blown alt season run would be like the 0.6, 0.61 area or something right around there. So, yeah, we've seen ETH bleed a little bit against it. That's obviously going to be even worse when it comes to altcoins. You know, it's not going to help them out at all. But for stuff like our ecosystem, and I don't want to keep even pointing it to just ours, but like for the rest of crypto and altcoins and stuff like that, we're going to need to see ETH become stronger, you know. And we've talked about how ETH was really strong in the bear market. Like, you know, it didn't hit those $500 levels that people were talking about. We had I never remember what this is called, the surge or the merge way back in like
Merge, yeah.
21. Yeah, that narrative kind of helped hold it up a little bit, but you know, we are seeing it struggle here. So that's the thing. Like, while that may seem bearish, and you know, there's people like Ben Cohen and stuff like that, like Bitcoin maxis all over Twitter, that are like, see, everything else is a scam. Like BTC is what it's always been. You know, hail BTC, pray to the BTC gods, blah 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 blah. But that is like, okay, I want to buy like all the ETH that I possibly can. You know what I mean? Or anything that is correlated with it, because
Right.
you know, Ethereum's not going away. Obviously, it's really better than ever at this point. You have Vitalik like literally making like roadmaps for it. So so yeah, I mean, we're going to see it run, and you best believe that the rest of the market comes back up with it. And that's why I'm so hopeful of that scenario where, even though it's going to suck real bad this year to just kind of go sideways the whole time, if that would happen, it just makes me think that we're going to see ETH and altcoins go absolutely parabolic like we couldn't have ever believed. And that's what we all want. And if it means waiting an extra year, sign me up, you know.
Yeah.
What do you got here, though?
I'm just looking at the BTC ETH chart versus ETH anyway. So
Yeah.
it does, nothing's really jumping out at me other than, you know, what we've been seeing is it's just kind of pulling away. But
Yeah, we're gonna have to see that gap close, and you would think that that happens when we start to get bullish prices again. If we get BTC back to an all-time high, whether that be, you know, in a couple of months here towards the end of this year, I would think that that's when you're going to see the slingshot of ETH and the rest of all
yep,
coins really
I
against
agree.
it. So, yeah,
I agree.
So yeah, that's kind of where we're looking there, and there's a lot of scenarios to consider. Now, looking at the PulseChain ecosystem, you know, we had Patrick's Astro and stuff last week upset with us because we didn't have the customary Tuesday night Creative Crypto dip. Well, now we've got a customary Wednesday Creative Crypto dip, because just a bit earlier we started to see multiple six-figure sells in the ecosystem. I think I saw on Twitter a couple $250,000 sells of Pulse or something like that. So we sit here with Pulse at about 28% below the SAC rate at the moment. Pulse X 70% down. Hard to believe. Now over 4% bought and burned of that. Incentive token sits at $3.64. Hex is at 8.2 hundredths, 8.2 tenths of a penny, basically. And eHex, if you want to know, is a little under 2/10 of a penny. I mean, there's so many zeros now, I'm forgetting what to even refer to these as, but that is where we are. More dippage. I can't say that I'm, you know, uber stoked about the price action on Pulse. I was hoping that, and it has still gravitated to this somewhat, but we're starting to spend more time below that 4 zeros in an 8 area than I kind of wanted it to. I was hoping that that area would act as a springboard, or at least we would see like massive support there. And again, it's not like we've crashed, like we haven't free fallen below it or anything like that. But I would have liked to see it kind of stick to there even more. So what do you, oh yeah, so we're coming up on the 1 year anniversary here. Yeah, and everybody, that'll be an interesting thing. Well, that'll be an interesting thing to talk about here too. The whole 50 weeks to shake out the weak hands thing, and do people rely on that too much? And is that narrative real, or is some magical thing going to come happen the minute that we hit that? Which we're like 4 days away. I guess that would be mathematically. So, yeah. What do you think? We can get into that, or if you want to pull up the Pulse chart, I do think it would be good to look at.
Well, that was my point to bring this up. We're 4 days away from that magical 50 weeks to shake to shake out people, but it's been such a narrative that I don't know if it really holds true, or if it takes another 5 to 10 weeks after that to really shake out the people. You know, we did see some massive buys early, but they weren't consecutive. It was a couple big buys. Let's see what happens. And sure enough, people sold. I think once 50 weeks happens, You might see a couple big buys. The whales aren't stupid. They're, the market makers know what they're doing. So the people that are buying aren't going to just put their whole bag in and let people dump. If there's still people that aren't truly believing in the system, if they're not, there are going to be sellers. So I mean, there's always going to be sellers. There's traders that are out there, but the weight of those traders versus the bigger bags that people hold, I think is really a telling story. And people that have money know how to play the markets. So I think you're going to see, probably with 10 days left, or maybe even right on the anniversary, you're going to see some buys as just let's dip our toes in and see what happens. Are people ready, to let this thing run, or are they still lettuce hands and going to sell? So that will be the telling tale once that starts to happen. So yeah, I mean, we can look at the chart, but I just wanted to bring that up. And I don't really. Do you think? I mean, what's your take on that whole 50 weeks to shake out the weak hands?
I don't want to say it's utter BS or anything like that. I mean, Richard, back when he said it for a reason, and it's a loose thing. I think people that are
Sure.
sitting here with that countdown like that, like, okay, that means that we're going to go up right after that date. I
Right.
think that's a complete asinine thought. I think that
Sure.
he was saying that generally,
Yeah.
with any kind of new product that's worth buying that launched on kind of the timetable of what PulseChain did, optimizing for everything that he would want to optimize for, that's generally about how long it takes, which is roughly a year. So,
Yep.
does that mean we're going to see something extremely noticeable right now? And, you can watch this and be like, oh, you're moving the goalposts. You were saying all this stuff. Well, we were never really saying that as like a concrete, definite thing, or I wasn't. Maybe Ewok was. If you want to blame anyone, blame Ewok for that.
Sure.
But when it comes to, looking at these things in perspective, I think if you wait, till mid 2020, like another year from now, end of the bull market, basically, you may see that these were about the worst times, or this was like pretty much the last dip after that, and
Yep.
we started moving up after there. So it's a generalization. So I don't think anybody should be married to that. And, the people that are married to it and are going to be really upset when we don't go up only in like 4 days aren't really people who like probably have all, millions and millions, tons invested in the ecosystem, I should say.
Sure.
So anyway, taking a look at the chart, I mean, yeah, what are you kind of seeing here? Because it's not pretty over the last few weeks. I mean, we've been coming down the whole, and a good perspective. I think you sent me a tweet from somebody the other day, Ewok, or I don't know where I saw it, but multiple people are saying, hey, keep in mind the whole market has been dumping. So it isn't just PulseChain.
Right.
So keep that in mind. But, to see us come below that 4 zeros and an 8 number and be where we are right now, we're at 4072 after old Nick Cherry sold a couple of weeks ago. There was one crazy wick down. I would like to see us gravitate up towards that price. So what are you kind of seeing here? And do you think we might just be slowly moving at this range for a while?
Well, it's funny because this blue line that I drew a couple weeks ago, and I said, that was kind of my target drop area, and I thought we would chop around in there a little bit, but I thought it would bounce off. It's doing kind of the opposite of what I thought. It's turned into resistance now, because it hit it here, and then it hit it here, and then went down again. So, we've had 3 tests of that 8.5 line, and it just decided that was it. So, it could actually go, I hate to say this, but it probably could go, because it seems to be a little exhausted right now. I think our next level is down here around 6.5.
Well, that's about where the wick went. That's where the Nick wick went the day that he sold. It went right around there. So sorry to interrupt you.
It's not, that's okay. It's not showing on this chart. I think I'm on the USDC price, which, honestly, that's probably not the best chart to be using. They're very similar, but we want it. Well, I mean, I guess you got to kind of tie it to something. So
it's fine. I mean, we're getting the picture. But yeah,
you get the picture. I mean, like I said, I think these levels down in here, where the last time there was some support or resistance was right around this 6.5 area. So it could test down there if we don't get some buyers to step in soon. We could find ourselves down here a little bit. And again, I perfectly fine. The one thing I would recommend, though, be careful if you've got any loans out there that you're not, as this thing creeps down, don't forget your collateralization ratio that, you might either want to pay a little bit off or add a little bit more pulse to increase your collateral. So just keep that in mind, because this could dip again before we really do start to go up. But again, that's okay. This is healthy as long as it stays, I think, within this zone between the line that I drew and the current price, maybe a little bit lower. Like I said, even 6.5, 6.8, somewhere there. As long as it chops around in there and goes sideways, again, accumulation is the best way to handle this right now. So,
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, not necessarily fun to be down here right now, but it is what it is. And it's, it's one of those things where, like, I know it gets extremely frustrating, but when you zoom out and think about, a good practice for anybody would be like, watch our streams with Frank Molina, or frankly, anybody who has streamed with Frank Molina. We have twice. He is somebody that can help you with perspective a whole bunch, and kind of zooming out. And I know people get upset with him because it's like, oh, well, you make all this money and I don't. And then, I saw people bitching like that, which, take a little bit of accountability there. But for some perspective, if you've got a good head on your shoulders, he's somebody to really help you, work through your thoughts, I think, with scenarios like this. So,
well, for him, it's more of a long-term mindset, and that's what you have to learn more than anything. And it's probably a good segue into the Richard's tweet about how he bought at 30 and it went to 2.
Yeah.
His point behind that was, I didn't sell. I held it because what do you do when it's at the bottom? Do you take losses like that? No, you hold it because the next cycle goes up again. And, back then it was so early, there was no historic channels or historic charts to look at, so he only hoped that it would go up, and sure enough, it did. As with most markets, over time, they will go up because, again, we're going back against the dollar. As the dollar goes down, your prices and your charts usually go up. So just kind of how the world works. It's got to be a long time horizon mentality to be successul.
Yeah, I agree. And easier said than done. And that's why most people don't achieve success, because they can't hack it, just the way it is. So if you're sticking around, you may be a little bit insane, but you also may be a little bit rich too eventually. So keep that in mind. So if you guys are here and enjoying the stream so far on our new/old time at Wednesday night at 6:30, please do hit the like. We appreciate you being here. Support Real DeFi. Support our channel. We appreciate all of you guys being here. Great segue by you, Ewok. Let's look at a couple of these RH tweets from the last couple of days, and I will. This one's rather short, so the couple that he had from the 18th. I'm going to send you the longer one in which he does talk about like buying the top of BTC. I think this is interesting to examine, and I think it has some people frustrated. He's been tweeting a lot about like, hey, Hex is down, Pulse is down. Well, so is the rest of the market and things like that. And people are like, well, what happened to 10,000X? And look at these charts and things like that. But let's analyze these. So there goes the camera again. That's always fun. I'm going to go ahead and read the first one. This is on the 18th, so almost a week ago. But he said, Hex was nearly, this we have to discuss. Hex was nearly at a new all-time high 35 days ago. It did a 5.3x in 198 days. To be clear, this is the Hex on PulseChain, where all the liquidity is, and not the Hex on Ethereum. Don't click links in the responses, blah, blah, blah. General Buck Naked Buck from the PH stuff says, RH dropping a big clue here. Pay attention, class. That's a top comment under there I just saw. I wanted to get your take on this, Ewok. Just about, Hex just hit an all-time high, however you want to say it. What do you think of this? Because there are people out there that, obviously I'm talking about Sami because he's one of the people saying it, and some people do feel this way. It's not just him saying it. I think it's because he's reacting to how people feel. But like, oh, this is gaslighting and it's not really an all-time high. And like, are we just pretending that Hex on Ethereum didn't hit 56 cents and all these things? But on the other hand, yeah, objectively, if you look at the Hex chart, it did on PulseChain, it did hit its all-time high. So yeah, what did you make of that? How did you interpret that tweet? There you go.
I mean, I don't know. I try not to overanalyze his tweets too much. I mean, I just read them and see what I get out of it. He didn't lie. He's calling Hex on PulseChain. It's not like he said all of Hex all-time high. So, people get butthurt about the weirdest things sometimes. On this chart, yeah, it did hit an all-time high. Obviously we know that 52 cents was EHEX's all-time high, but I don't know. It's one of those, man, don't take things so literally. Don't get so upset about somebody tweeting on the internet. And then, it never fails. Obviously, people criticize every little thing that happens because they're not happy with their purchases, probably because they're over leveraged. But it's the toxic playground, man. That's kind of what I get out of it. It's just, I don't know. It's hard to fault people as well. I'm kind of on both sides because, yeah, it's not anywhere near all-time high. We're all down pretty heavily, right? But at the same time, he didn't say anything that wasn't true. It's all interpretation. It's kind of like the the market decided,
Right.
And then blaming him because he fudded it. He didn't really fud it. He just gave an observation. And I think people have to understand a little bit more that he's just giving observation. He's reading things and looking at charts and giving his observation. He's not trying to shape or shift the markets in any way. It's what people do and how they interpreted it is what causes the on-chain transactions. He's not doing any of that. So that's just my take on it.
Well, I think what it is like just different perspectives. Like you obviously are coming from it as like OG Hexakin, been here the whole time, got in at amazing prices, all that stuff. And that's not, that's just making a statement. That's not blaming you or anybody else or anything like that. And then a lot of the people, I mean, clearly, like very many of the people are going to be people that bought the pump, bought it on the way up the last bull cycle, and are like heavily underwater. And that doesn't, that's not unique to Hex. Obviously, that is all of crypto. Everybody does that. That's what happens. Retail comes in at the end, and they're the exit liquidity. That's what's going to happen this cycle. And everybody
don't forget a large percentage of my biggest purchases were when Hex was at 8 cents. I did get in early. I was early days, but I, had a lot of money that I had come available when Hex was probably at a half a cent, and I didn't deploy it until it was probably almost 8 cents. It just happened that quickly. So a lot of mine is underwater too. So I get it. Yes, I did get in early. I was here and buying up some of those early low. I did buy on day 33, which was the lowest day as well. But the majority of my capital that was put in, came in a little bit higher. So sorry to cut you off, but.
Well, no, I think that is, I'm glad you did mention that because, that is perspective for some other people. I think everybody just looks at Crypto Coffee or Johnny Chaos or like some of these, famous people from the beginning as like, yeah, well, you're a lottery ticket winner and now you're just like spouting all this stuff now down the road or something like that. And I don't think that's true. And obviously, those guys are around and still working. I mean, there are many people who were around and then totally left after they,
Sure.
may have made it, never showed their face again. So keep that in mind. But, it's just the all-time high thing on Hex is something that people are just like, okay, I had all these stakes already. I had all this stuff on Hex on Ethereum, and now it's down 99%. And then I have this copy on PulseChain, and I'm supposed to think that we just hit an all-time high. Here's the thing that we haven't said this yet, and this is why I condone. I mean, not that it matters to him, but why I condone that Richard Hart tweet. It's marketing. That's what he needs to be doing. He's one of the people that's going to be the best for marketing this ecosystem of anybody. As much as, there's an awesome organic ecosystem. There's lots of people doing great marketing and stuff like that. And even people doing horrible marketing, but at least people are out there doing stuff. You know what I mean? Which is good. I saw people come at Corey Costa the other day about like how he was on that new Ben Armstrong podcast or whatever, and that he didn't represent it well or whatever. And it's like, look, if you have a microphone and you're talking about it, at the end of the day, with the adoption of crypto and stuff, I think that is a good thing. So, that's my thoughts on that. But yeah, this is a marketing tweet, and I think it should be. And I would be screaming from the rooftops like, hey, this token came out under a year ago. It just hit an all-time high. It's down a little bit right now, whatever. Do you want new people to come into the ecosystem or not? You know what I mean? Like, I get it. I'm frustrated myself here and there when it's like, oh, yeah, it just hit a new all-time high. It's kind of like a little bit of an eye roll. But there are people who just came into crypto and have never owned Hex, have never owned PulseChain, and never bought any of this stuff. And that's who you want to realize the products that we have here, which we still all think are amazing products. It's just that the price is down. What changed with Hex other than the price being down? The way it's better, actually. I mean, the way that it operates on PulseChain is better. It's just that the price is down and you want people to come in and buy it. So I'm not going to blame Richard Hart for marketing that. I don't really, give a shit how it looks otherwise. So I don't know if you had any other thoughts on that, Ewok.
No, and you nailed that. He is technically a marketing genius. I mean, he's been doing it a long time. He's had several very successful companies that he's had a lot of practice. He knows the things that work. He knows the things that don't. Let the man cook.
Yeah, I think so too. Here's the other one. So this is from later on 418, and I did DM you this one. This is the longer one, Ewok. So he said, I teach you about markets. The market doesn't care if you bought higher. So this is to that point we were just making. The market doesn't care if you are underwater. If you bought Ethereum at 5K and now it's 3K, the market doesn't care. But you see, after you might have bought at 5K, somebody else literally bought at 1K. So while you might cry and whine like a wimp at 3K, they're quite happy at 3K because they did a 3X while you did negative 40%. So who should new people be more concerned with? The crying, whining down for 889 days guy that bought at 5K, or the guy that 3X buying 672 days ago? When people buy things, they often do so emotionally, and they prefer good emotions to bad emotions. What do you think feels better for a new guy? See, this is exactly the point we just made. He's laying it out perfectly. Hearing someone crying and moaning that they personally bought higher, or hearing about the mad gains of someone that 3X'd his stack. Are you participating in the most volatile price action to ever exist? Or you are participating in the most volatile price action to ever exist. There's always going to be top buyers, period. And there's always someone that made money selling them the top. Most people just wish the top seller was them. It's funny that people push the price up themselves with their bids, but don't see that they personally are part of the reason that there was a top when there was, because instead of waiting and buying dips, they bought tops. Personal responsibility is quite rare these days. No raindrop. Think it's the flood. The same goes for sellers, people that sell all the time and never buy, yell and scream about others not buying. Anyway, I sat through Bitcoin going from $30 to $2, and I'm still here. TLDR, well, you might have bought higher and are sad. Many might have bought lower and are happy. It's too bad top buyers yell so much louder than bottom buyers. It's noisy for the new folk. That pretty much sums it up. I mean, I think that's just what we said. I mean, that's just clearly showing like, hey, I'm marketing the product here. I get it. I understand people being upset by that and be like, but what about all of us and stuff? And it's like, well, you got to look in the mirror and realize like you were the exit liquidity last time.
Yeah.
And you may have to be patient and the gains aren't here yet. And yeah, maybe you're not going to have the highest ROI in the 5 years to 6 years that you held crypto is like what you could have gotten on this, that, or the other thing. You know, comparison is the thievery of joy. Tell me the meme token that you wish you should have bought at what time, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just zooming out and being more patient like that. And I know it's so hard and nobody wants to do it or hear it, but again, that's why most people are not successful. So, what do you take
Well,
away from his tweet?
another thing, the reason they're not successful is because they don't fix their situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
They buy high and they just sit there and wallow because it's going down, instead of helping their entry cost. You know, now if somebody bought at 50 cents, now if they haven't bought since then, I can understand why they're miserable. But if you haven't helped fix your own situation, you kind of deserve it,
Mm-hmm.
man. There are so many ways to, we've had all these opportunities to buy in at some of these basement bargain prices, that you could have brought your entry price down to probably a penny, 2 pennies,
Mm-hmm.
maybe a nickel at this point. Um, wouldn't it be so much more healthy once we got to 5 cents? If you're like, now I'm in profit, rather than having to wait the whole way up to 50 cents when you bought in.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, people don't do themselves any favors either. And that's the big thing. And that's why they're so loud. They just want to hear themselves, and make other people as miserable as they are, rather than, all right, here's the situation I'm in. How do we make it better?
Yeah.
That's the goal, is to make your situation better rather than to just wallow in your misery. It just doesn't do anybody any good. That's my take on the whole thing. People just aren't helping themselves.
I agree, and that is a huge thing. I mean, like, yeah, I wasn't even thinking of that. I mean, if you bought at 50 cents or whatever, and even hey, everybody's
Even
fallible.
40 doesn't matter. 40.
Well, it's funny you say 40 because I was going to say Gary Woods has talked about that funding Jim. He did buy a hefty amount at the 40-cent range.
Yeah.
I did as well. I know I did. And yeah, if you never bought again since then, or maybe just sacked for Pulse and you're like, oh my God, it's been down only, and you haven't been buying all this time, you cannot reap the benefits of any Pulse pump that we would get. Like
No.
I'm happy. I bought the lows on PulseChain. No, it wasn't like, oh, the perfect timed. I happen to have hundreds of thousands of dollars and I put it all in at that, whatever, 4 zeros and a 3 number or whatever it was.
Right.
But I DCA'd it. I've DCA'd everywhere down here for the entire year.
Yeah.
I know some of our friends in the chat have done the same thing as well. And, there were times where you felt like you were catching a falling knife. Now that we're in more of a bull market, you feel like I'm buying the dip actually, which is good.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, if you haven't been buying all this time, you cannot improve your situation. That's what everybody does is they buy the top like that, they suffer, then they want to give up and they don't come back to the market. You have to actually, if you have the conviction in this ecosystem, I can't make you have that. Nobody can. But if you do, you have to improve your situation by doubling down and buying more.
Yep.
And
Yep.
Ewok, the power. Talk about the power of this. And you've given some examples before. I've heard Crypto Coffee do it before. When you're DCAing down, how powerful that is. You're like doubling, tripling your token and like really bringing down your cost basis when you're making those buys at the bottom. Like, I think some people don't realize how effective that can be.
Well, the math is crazy. Like, you would think, all right, if I bought $1,000 when it was 50 cents, and then I bought $1,000 when it was a penny, most people would think it averages out to be 25 cents, right? Just that's the common math conception that you
Right.
would have. It's not the case. It actually brings it down to, I believe it's 8 or 9 cents, as your average buy-in, because of the great number, the greater number that you actually get at a penny. It really brings down that average considerably more than just half. So it does. And then, if you continue to buy at those prices, if you double it again, well, it doesn't just cut that 9 in half either. It brings it down probably in the 2-3 cent range rather than 4.5 or 5 cents. So each time you double down at a lower price, it's definitely going to help your average buy-in price. And I think that's why we see so many toxic people on X. I don't think they've done anything to better their situation. They just want to be around to make everybody miserable because, well, as long as I'm not putting any more money into this, but they're going to be so very unhappy when it goes higher, and they could have.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. Yeah, it's just a character thing. It's like, are you gonna be brave enough to DCA down here when things aren't going bad, or not? Or what are you gonna do instead? I know people make fun of Silvertooth on Twitter occasionally. He's been all in on crypto, and I'm back, and here I come again. PulseChain, blah blah blah, and then he's left and Crypto 1, Silvertooth 0. I'm done with this industry. He's done that routine, much like another person we were DMing about the other day that has probably done a little bit more harm than Silvertooth to people. But there's just, come in, come back, come in, come back. Hey, guys, I'm back. Oh, Hex is the greatest thing since sliced bread. You know what? I'm leaving Twitter again. It's just, we see that. And now Silvertooth, I think, is in Litecoin at last check.
I was just going to say, the last I checked, he was all in on Litecoin. So
yeah. Well, hey, who knows? Maybe
I hope he does well, man. I
do too.
Anybody in crypto, I hope they do well. I hope they learn that it's still a better system, even if it is Litecoin or Dogecoin or Ripple, if that's what you like, or anything. We all have our favorites, and that's what we're going to talk about. Obviously, we're not going to sit here and have a show on Ripple when neither one of us really hold any Ripple. So it just doesn't make sense because we're not following that group. But I want everybody to succeed. That's kind of the goal of crypto, and eventually the idea is to have a community where our money doesn't really ever have to leave the crypto system, right? We want to be able to transact in whatever crypto that we like, and not have to leave the system. I mean, with the way the dollar is going, if we could keep it in the ecosystem, buy our goods and services and things like that with our crypto, the world would be a much better place, I think. But just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I'm with you. Some good thoughts though, for sure. I know those tweets from RH riled some people up, but maybe they should in a good way. I mean, you have to examine yourself a little bit and look. You're never going to see on this show, or not from me. I can't speak for Ewok, but you're never going to see on this show, Richard Hart ass kissing. I mean, like that's not going to happen. I don't like it when I do see that. There are some people that just have this, everything he says is, written with the blood of Christ, or, it's not like that. But I think you should examine what he's saying and realize that, there is a lot there. And he's simply saying, I think people actually should look at that second long tweet that he made as like let me help you understand my previous tweet a little bit more, like nicely, by saying that, it's advertising doesn't work if you're just like, oh, but my Hex from a couple years ago is down 99% or whatever. I mean, who are you going to bring in with that?
Right.
They all know, as he mentions in another tweet, all these legacy, or I shouldn't say legacy, but like greater crypto market people are aware of what eHex is. They're not aware of like what PulseChain is and Hex on PulseChain and stuff. They just keep quoting that eHex chart and they have no idea what they're talking about. So, you need to that's why I think you need to give the detail of this new stuff as well. So anyway.
Well, we've got to branch out a little too. I mean, we've got to be the ones that are spreading the word about, hey, by the way, this is PulseChain. When you see things like that, and not attack these people because they're posting the wrong stuff or whatever. I think, you get more bees with honey than vinegar. So
do you want bees? I mean, I had a hornet's nest in my front porch last summer, and it was.
You want flies?
Sure. I don't know what attracts flies. Yeah, poop, I guess. Yeah, so use poop. I'm not sure. Yeah. I'm sure Jake, the producer, liked the poop joke right there in the background. So, all right, cool. Well, if you guys are enjoying the stream, hit the like. Producer Jake is in the background doing a great job for us tonight. My camera's going out a little bit, but that's probably my own fault. Let's go here. I know you had some thoughts on it. It was a hot topic over the last few days. So Maddie Allen, who does so much for the Hex community, the PulseChain community. I mean, God does it all. I mean, you can't really maybe we shouldn't even be in the business of saying who does the most for PulseChain or anything like that. But, Maddie's got to be right there. I mean, he runs the PulseChain conference, the Hex conference. You and I participated, Ewok, in the supposedly the Guinness Book of World Records largest live stream ever, like most people ever, this past winter, whatever. That was in January.
Yeah.
That Maddie held. And he just does so much. He's created things for the ecosystem. He's just done so much. He had Richard Hart on at the last Hex conference in January of 2023. He's just done so much. He is now launching and you'll have to fill in some of this because I don't know all of it, but I don't know if Freedom to Sign is the overall product or project. But he is running a sacrifice phase for it. I believe, looks like you're probably pulling stuff up here.
Yeah, I'm going to pull it up there.
Okay. But I think he has like a 30-day window from what I may have read for what the sacrifice phase is. Inevitably, of course, when he made this announcement, and we knew that he was working on something like this for a while. I know he's been talking and tweeting about it here and there, had some trials and tribulations with it, but I think he's, it's where he wants it to be right now. But inevitably, with his tweet about there being a sacrifice phase, people are not too stoked on the idea of someone, especially within this ecosystem, seeking, asking, or mentioning that there is a place that you can send your money that is truly a sacrifice. Obviously, people have a very bad taste in their mouth about sacrifices and throughout this ecosystem. And you could point to a million things. You could point to the PulseChain sack, summer of 2021. The PulseX sacrifice was more towards like winter of 2021 going into 2022. Much more people sacrificed for PulseX. Obviously, those tokens are underwater, and people are like, why did I do that? If you were sensible, like Ewok and I, and maybe some other people out there that are watching us, we didn't sacrifice an amount that made us, that butthurt about it. But, but then a lot of these products that have launched on PulseChain took that Richard Hart kind of ethos with the sacrifice stuff because it's like, hey, we can get money right up front. Why not do it? And some of them have had good intentions, some of them not. Some of them have good intentions and haven't delivered on them, whether it be liquid loans or correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know who all had sacrifice phases, but pretty much everybody. I mean, I think the Tetra guys, the PH tokens and all that stuff.
9-inch, I believe they were, so I don't think people were upset so much about the sacrifice as that nothing was back to the expectations, right? They expected people to do things. I could see with the 9-inch maybe expecting to provide a little bit of liquidity, right? That wasn't done. Liquid loans, very similar, provide some liquidity for the token. The problem is when you get that many people sacrificing, you get a lot of people that are just sacrificing so that they can dump. And I don't blame them. Why would you put money in just to be exit liquidity? What was the point of sacrificing if you're just going to get it and dump it right away? Maybe try and turn a 2x. Well, the people that did the sacrifice, they don't want to be your exit liquidity to just give everybody a 2x. So I completely get it. But anyway, go ahead with did you finish leading in with the Maddie thing here?
Well, my final just point about it, and yeah, good points on the sacrifices, but it's just, when it comes to the Maddie thing, what are your thoughts, obviously? And, people, look, he's not the first person that has mentioned a sacrifice phase where people have, thrown pitchforks. I mean, that's been happening now for any product or anything that is even mentioned setting up a model like that for like over a year now. So that's not unique to him. But I want to ask you also, do you think it's different coming from Maddie because of how much he has done, on his own for the community? And I saw Sami made a great point about this the other day. But the fact that and we just talked about this a moment ago, but so many people that made it on Hex that maybe threw in a lottery ticket and they have, tens of millions of dollars or whatever, they just left and they're totally gone. And regardless, Maddie, as well as many others that we've mentioned here tonight, has not only been here, but really worked his ass off to do a lot of great things. So is it different coming from him? I just want you to cover all angles. And yeah, I'm just curious on your thoughts on it.
So I just read this and realized it because I was going to be like, I'll just throw 10 or 12, $15, whatever it may be, in to say that I did.
Right.
Hex Girl said the problem was the $500 minimum. So, okay, fair enough. That is kind of high. But here's my take on it. If you don't like it, don't do it. Like, I'm not probably going to throw $500 in there. And it's kind of like the same situations if you're watching a show on TV that's extremely against your opinions, change the channel kind of thing, right? Nothing or no one is saying that you have to participate. And this is all voluntary. And you're right. Maddie has done a ton for the community and not ever asked for a penny. You know, I remember when he was setting up the Hex conferences and things like that. He was trying to make the tickets as affordable as possible just to cover his costs. You know what I mean? He wasn't trying to make anything. He didn't want to make anything off of it. He just wanted to put together the best conference that he could for the value of what was being charged and essentially break even. So, yeah, you know, again, it clearly states, you know, right here, points have no value. You must have no expectations. And that was my first thought about this whole thing is, well, he's doing a true sacrifice. You know, there is no talk of anything else. You get nothing. You know, I don't know, you know, what his next product is. We've heard about him talking about it. But it was more of a reward yourself for behaviors, right? Like
Yeah, like
try
time
to,
locking.
yeah, time locking to reward yourself for good behavior. Like for me, if I could stop smoking, I would get rewarded for this down the
Mm.
road. Things like that. It's a way to reward yourself for good behavior. So, I mean, I know he's been working on that theory or game, whatever, tokenomics or however to do it, along with something as far as rewards and a smart contract and things like that. But again, I don't know a whole lot about it, but there is no token for this. There's not, you know, that we know of anyway. So this could truly be, this is a sacrifice. This is all it is a sacrifice. You're giving up your money. You're not really getting anything other than points. So yeah, I think people are too quick to judge. I know there are people out there that are looking out, trying to look out for others, but we're supposed to be all adults here. You know, obviously, don't give what you don't have. Don't invest more than you can afford to lose. All of that goes over and over without saying. But you know, people have to like just move on from it instead of, you know, I see them and then they just want to just bash and bash and bash, and they want to get as many people on their side as they can, rather than just, if you don't like it, don't look at it. If you don't look, skip it, go on to something else. You know, that's always been my theory about things that I don't like, is I just don't pay them much attention. And you know, I wish more people had that outlook on these different things. So
That's pretty much where I've come out on it. I'm kind of just neutral on it because I don't plan on, spoiler alert, sacrificing for it anyway. And you know, I just don't have a lot of emotions about it. I mean, like he's allowed to do it.
sure.
At least he is somebody. You know, I would feel a little bit different about it if it was one of these like known long time scammers that we were DMing about the other night that, you know, is in and out of the community trying to do things all the time and stuff. That would be one
Yeah.
thing. If it was somebody
Right.
who had like a long reputation with, you know, provable instances of scamming people, that would be one thing.
Yeah.
This, I just, whatever, it is what it is. I mean, if you
Yeah.
have the change you want to throw at Maddie, you know, for whatever reason, you go ahead and do it. You know,
Go
I'm not
for it.
going to, but you know, whatever you want to do. I just,
Yeah. And
doesn't
and I
bother me.
think, yeah, I think Maddie deserves all kind of credit for what he does. You know, you spoke of a lot of the things that he's done, and I'm sure there's been more. You know, he also streams twice a week, every
Hmm.
week, no matter what's going on in his own life. You know what I mean? He had a pretty bad car accident, and he still continued to stream, even though you know, he had I forget whether it was his collarbones or his arm. Something was
Something with
broken.
his neck, I think.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it was
Yeah.
collarbones. He broke both collarbones, and he could hardly walk or move around. But he's still sitting there streaming for the community. So, he's got a good track record. He's trusted. He's a well-known guy. Again, I don't want to put any shade on him at all, because I think he's a very stand-up and hell of a guy. So, I met Maddie in Vegas at the conference, and he's all about getting things done, and trying to provide the best value he can for everyone. So, I've got nothing bad to say about him, and I enjoy watching his streams. I like sending people there because they have a really cool audience as well. So yeah, again, I'm not throwing any shade. I personally won't be participating, but I don't have anything against what he's doing.
Yeah. Yeah, here. I feel pretty much the same way. So I'm glad he's around, glad he keeps making content. We do have the PulseChain conference coming up next month, right? Here in a couple weeks. Yeah, so that's going to be great. So look out for that as well. Let's look at this. We have a trifecta of SEC stories to cover here that are fantastic because these guys are just absolutely continuing to be the guy out in the yard that's walking around and he steps on his own rake and the rake comes up, hits him in the face, or, whatever analogy, slipping on a banana peel, whatever it is. We got so many good things here. So it started a few days ago. I'm going to first talk about this, the two SEC lawyers resigning. So this one is from about April 20, Monday at this point that I saw it anyway. So from Bloomberg. Okay, so we don't really have to catch anybody up to speed here. The SEC has been losing every crypto battle left and right. Basically, obviously, people within the PulseChain ecosystem are familiar with the SEC and their tactics. People within Ripple and the XRP token, who actually have defeated the SEC and then also defeated their appeal. The SEC is just losing to crypto left and right, losing credibility at every turn, essentially. So, from Bloomberg the other day, 2 Securities and Exchange Commission lawyers resigned after federal judge sanctioned and sharply rebuked the Wall Street regulator for gross abuse of power in a crypto case. Now, we knew about that sanction already. That was kind of old news, and that was in the debt box case. But Michael Welsh, and Joseph Watkins stepped down this month. Now, these are lawyers for the SEC. Okay, right. Not like people on the commission. So that this is interesting. I don't know the people on the commission just stepped down out of nowhere like that. I'm sure they're getting paid for doing nothing. But yeah, they stepped down this month after the SEC official told them that they would be terminated if they stayed. Okay, I don't think I read that part. According to people familiar with the matter, the pair were lead attorneys on a case against Digital Licensing Inc., a crypto platform known as Debtbox. The regulator's lawsuit against Debtbox was marred by false statements and misrepresentations, as well as a lack of evidence, according to Robert Shelby, the federal district court judge in Salt Lake City who was hearing the case. Shelby took the extreme step, and this is crazy and awesome of him, of sanctioning the agency for abuse of power in March. And the SEC's head of enforcement has apologized for the mishaps. This is incredible. So, this is, so it sounds like the lawyers were already being threatened by the SEC that they were going to be fired. But this is just a continued mess. I don't know who is to blame the most here. The SEC is obviously throwing the lawyers under the bus. But look, this agency has done this left and right. And how many times have they been ruled? What's that term that they always throw around? Arbitrary and capricious or whatever. Right. So, yeah, what do you make of this? It's just another fantastic story about the corruption within this garbage agency.
Well, and I don't know if you caught this part of it as well here, but it also says in the conclusion, the commission is ordered to pay defendants and receivers attorney fees and legal costs arising from the TRO and the receiver. Defendants and receiver are ordered to file within 30 days petitions for fees, clearly setting forth their requests in accordance with the court's guidance. So, yeah, not only were they fired, but now it looks like the SEC is ordered to pay the defendants and receivers attorneys fees and legal costs as far as this goes as well. because of their gross abuse of power. But yes, they were given the option to resign, or they could get fired. So I think they took the one that looks a little bit better on your resume.
Dignity.
Right.
Well, better dignity too, and to just show that, like, they should show, like, screw the SEC. Like, we did a job for these people. And I mean, I don't think it's just the lawyer's fault that the judge called it a gross abuse of power.
Sure.
I mean, that has been the SEC trends, regardless of what lawyers are representing them.
Yep.
Right? I mean,
yeah. Attorneys from the commission, general counsel office likely committed another breach of their duty and candor to the court, which was mentioned here. It's just bad. Like, they just kind of really screwed it up because they think that they don't have to live up to the law, and unfortunately this time it came back to bite them, and I'm really glad it did, and I hope this kind of sets some precedent as to say, all right, guys, you better play by the rules here, because we're getting tired of this stuff. And obviously turning it back around onto the case that we have to deal with is, I hope it definitely has a little bit of precedent set, and the judges can further kind of govern the rules a little bit better,
mhm.
So.
Well, yeah, and that's it. We've talked about this for months. The judges are all getting very familiar with this act from the SEC. I mean, there's not really, there's not really a way the judges can just lock themselves in in solitary confinement and, like, not watch the news or know what's happening with a case like this, especially like, it's going to be out there. There's no way to avoid that,
Sure.
So you will know that going in, and likely the judges are going to know far more about the SEC and the things that they've been doing than especially somebody like Richard Hart or what PulseChain is or anything. But even like Coinbase, I imagine they are even more familiar with what the SEC's been doing than even something like Coinbase. So they continue to just ruin their reputation if they even have one. Yeah. Now, you sent me this one the other day. Now, this is interesting, and this is one I was reading some of the comments, and it's one of those things where it's like, is this, when it comes to government, there's so many Republicans out there, like Tom Emmer and Warren Davidson in Ohio. Like, we've seen a lot of Republican, lawmakers and stuff like that are pro crypto, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And sometimes you're like, well, are they really? Is this just show? Are they just trying to garner votes? Like, what is this? So, because then you see other tweets from them that are kind of like I saw something from Tom Emmer the other day. All I'll say, I'm not going to even get into this topic, but it was a totally unrelated to crypto thing. And he was talking about, like, certain other countries that we stand with. And he got absolutely lit up for it in the comments, because it's like, no, we don't stand with these other countries. Like, we stand with the United States of America. And it's like, what is this guy's real ethos here? But anyway, so this came from Crypto Geek on Twitter the other day. So, breaking: United States Congress likely to subpoena SEC chairman over possible investigation into SEC report, which found we're talking about Gary Gensler, may have purchased over 1.2 million XRP during the Ripple lawsuit. So House Republicans are threatening to subpoena Gary Gensler for this. Now, there's a lot of words there, like threatening to and subpoena, and where could this all go? And it's one thing after the other. And again, I'm also, like I said, I'm a little skeptical. Like, are these guys really that serious? But what do you make of this story? And would you put it past the guzzler? Because I really wouldn't. I mean, he was in charge of everything going on with that Ripple lawsuit. And we see this in our governments all the time. The Nancy Pelosi insider trading and stuff. He may know what the result of the lawsuit's going to be, and he's purchasing tokens during the dip or whatever. So what do you make of this story? What do you think our friend the guzzler's in trouble here?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I shouldn't say without, certainty. There hasn't been any proof of him doing this yet. No. However, if he did, it just, like, he should be thrown out. He should be thrown out as the, the chair. No questions asked. It doesn't, I mean, this is, it's just extreme overreach. It's like all the, when I think about it, it reminds me of the Congress people that make couple $100,000 a year, yet they're worth $30 million.
Yeah, like I said, Pelosi. Yep.
Yeah, there's many of them that are in the same boat, but it just goes to show you how corrupt many of these people are that are not even elected officials. They're just placed in there. It wouldn't surprise me after seeing what we have seen with the reason they won't clarify anything. They won't give any kind of clarity for rulings so that we know how to follow what rules. What is a security? What isn't a security? Does the Howey test even really matter at this point? Yeah, I think it's just a total abuse of power, inside information. There could be so many things that could be thrown at him if this is found to be true. And yeah, if it doesn't justify an automatic disbar or whatever, I don't even know what the term would be, is just removal of office of the chair that he holds. It should happen immediately.
The Scarlet Letter thing is interesting because there's actually also an aspiring member of the SEC, Hester, not Pryn
Hester,
or Prine or whatever,
Hester
but
Pierce.
Pierce. Yeah. I always think it's the Scarlet Letter girl. But yeah, could she take over? I don't know. But yeah, we this is unsubstantiated. We don't know. Again, my bigger thing is also like we know Gensler is a sham and actively trying to hurt the industry and all that stuff. We know that. That's not up for debate. What I'm thinking about is, are these Republican lawmakers actually serious about this, or is it just kind of like, we'll kind of throw a limp dick thing out there, like we're going to do this and just kind of posture so people support us. I don't know.
Yeah, I was trying to look for an article about it. This is completely different. Whistleblower against Gary Gensler amid exodus. This is a completely different story. So there's all kind of stuff going on. Obviously, people write things that aren't true all the time. So I hate to say anything, and
Well, that's okay. I mean, we pulled this from Twitter.
In trouble.
I pulled that thing off Twitter. I mean, it's speculation, and it's just saying that he may be subpoenaed. So
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Gensler would sue us for this, though. I mean, so let's be on the lookout for any incoming lawsuits we may get from the SEC. Now, this next one is. This next SEC one definitely has teeth. This is an actual lawsuit because the SEC is getting sued for this one, and I just DM'd you the article from Yahoo Finance.
Oh, okay.
You have that too. So you have the actual lawsuit. Now that's a bit harder to read, but if you want to put that up there too. Now, Richard Hart did tweet about this one. So this is basically crypto lobbyists sue this is from CoinDesk. The crypto lobbyists sue the SEC over dealer definition. So this goes back to their overreach. So a U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission rule expanding the definition of a dealer to capture digital assets activity has gone too far. A lawsuit by the Blockchain Association and Crypto Freedom Alliance of Texas has alleged. The suit filed in the District Court of the Northern District of Texas on Tuesday claims that the expanded definition of a dealer would also capture people who are just trading in digital assets. So like we would be dealers, essentially. Yep. Makes a lot of sense. The suit alleges that the SEC did not engage with the feedback it received during the rule's public comment period and did not conduct its statutorily required economic analysis. Richard Hart has familiarized us with these comment periods, and yeah, I wouldn't be surprised that the SEC just floats them out there but ignores anything anybody says. The suit is asking the court to declare that the rule is arbitrary, capricious, or otherwise contrary to the law under the Administrative Procedures Act and to block the SEC from enforcing the rule. Because of the rule's exclusive focus on post hoc effects of trading, the new definition of dealer will potentially sweep in all manner of digital asset market participants, including users who merely participate in digital asset liquidity pools, the suit said. The definition of a dealer specifically excludes persons buying or selling securities for their own accounts, the suits noted, highlighting the difference between a dealer and a trader, which are clearly two different things. So yeah, they're getting sued. This is another in a long line of suits that are against them. The last thing here just says the commission undertakes rulemaking. The SEC says the commission undertakes rulemaking consistent with its authorities and laws governing the administrative process, and will vigorously defend the final dealer rules in court. That's just not true. But yeah, well, what do you make of this? This seems like a good one, and we'll have to follow along with this one. But I'm glad to see people actually going on the offensive against the SEC. That's
Yeah,
what we need to see happen, because it's always them doing the suing.
right. Yep. It's good to see that the tables are turning. People are educating themselves, and yeah, they want clarity too. And I think that's all that this really is they want clarity. They want them to give better definitions, make decisions that are clear, without a whole bunch of arbitrary, well, this is, well, we can't really call it this because it could be that. And, no, it doesn't work that way. You need to decide so that people can stop getting in trouble. People can follow your rules if you want to make rules, um, and go from there. Yeah, there's I didn't get a chance to go through this entire document. I started reading it a little bit, and I'm like, holy crap, it's like,
It's like 60 some.
60 pages long. Um, and but yeah, no, I'm glad. I'm really glad that people are going after them. For so long, nobody really wanted to fight back. It was kind of just wait your turn and, oh shit, pay a fine. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Now you're seeing, all right, well, let's go. Here we go. We've got a team of lawyers, and this hopefully isn't going to work so good for you this time. So, I'm happy to see this. I would love to see more of them, more than they know what to do with. And you got to start somewhere. It's almost like a revolution of sorts, that we've got to get them to make some sort of decision, so that, again, we need clarity, and they just haven't been giving that, and it's not right. You can't
Mm-hmm.
you can't enforce rules without clarity. So yeah, I'm very happy to see this.
Yeah, totally agree. Just another 3 potential big stories there with the SEC. So we'll continue to monitor it. I mean, we look at it through, PulseChain colored glasses, of course, but these are all positives for the Richard Hart case. You know what I mean? Anything
Yeah,
like this that happens are going to be positives for him. Just especially the one with the two lawyers resigning, and just the continuation of that story from that judge in, I think it was Utah, calling them, I already forget what he said, but the stern rules, like just complete overreach, basically.
yeah, yeah,
I think that is super, super bullish. The more that judges are finding that and saying those things that outwardly, the
yeah,
better, for sure. So
yeah. And I wonder how much of that will be used in, like, or by even Richard's lawyers, for that matter. I'm sure the judges are aware of it. And I'm sure in court it wouldn't hurt to kind of throw in some of these comments,
mhm.
and
Yeah.
and just to see how it goes from I don't know, see what kind of response it gets from the judges anyway.
Yep, I totally agree. We're just about getting ready to wrap up here. Let's finish off with this light, easy one here, and I'll let you kind of take the reins, Ewok, because I think you know more about it than I do. But another potential airdrop that you didn't have to, I don't believe, sacrifice for or anything like that, but it was an airdrop for something that you may have used for being involved with Hex. But that is the Safe token, that I believe it had to do with the Staker app, which is now the app, I think, is essentially defunct, but I think there is actually a website now,
There
or
is.
like a web-based
Yep.
version of it. Ewok, I know you had a bit of a mishap with it, that you were going to get those tokens. Again, it's called the Safe token. I think OX Steph from Staker app was kind of in charge of all that. That's really all I'm going to say. I'm going to let you
Okay.
take it away with what that is,
Yeah.
how it came to be, and all that stuff. So
Yeah. So if you had the Staker app and you had downloaded it, back in the day, and gotten one of the private wallets, those were set up with what is called a Gnosis safe. And that was kind of the power behind Staker. That was the wallet that had the extra security. You know, it had 24 seed words. There's a lot more to a Gnosis safe that adds a lot of security. There's a lot of functionality within a Gnosis safe that wasn't all fully implemented on Staker, but you know, again, that was the back end that they were using for the wallets. Anyway, because you participated, because you probably most likely had some Ethereum in there, some Hex, probably made a stake or two, so you had some transactions. If you did that, you were eligible for the safe airdrop when it happened. The problem was you had to claim it by the end of last year. So you had to do a claim before December, whatever it was, in order to get them now that they're released. So the one thing that I would say is if you didn't claim it and you know you didn't, I wouldn't go searching around for links. Don't go searching around for things, clicking on things, because there are, again, as with any airdrop, there are fake links. There are fake websites out there. They get you to put your seed words in, and they're wiping people out. So just be extremely careful. You're gonna know if you claimed it or not. If you want a easy video on how to get it now that it's there, David Feeder had put something out a few months back. Go look at his YouTube videos and look up, I forget what it was called, Gnosis Safe Claim or Safe Claim or something like that. Go watch one of his videos on it. But again, if you didn't claim and you know you didn't claim, don't even bother. You're just opening yourself up to some scammers that probably have fake websites out there. If you want information on it to look at it, go to one of the trusted people. Go to either, I believe they are just at Safe on X. Let me make sure it's at Safe.
Safe Moon? I don't think it's that.
No, it's not Safe Moon.
USDA food safety.
Maybe not.
Well, I mean, I'm sure if you go to OX Steph, I mean, you'll be able to find, anything you need.
It is at Safe. I don't know why it didn't come up when I searched it, but that is their.
I just found it. Yeah, you're right. It is just at Safe. Yeah, I think it's because there's so many safe.
Right.
Twitter,
so many things popped up in front of it. So, their website is safe.global. But get any information from them or from somebody trusted like Steph, who has some information out there about it as well. Again, you're going to know if you claimed before last year was over, and if you didn't claim, you're not eligible for it. But, the big takeaway from this is how many airdrops we've seen and how many firsts that the Hexicans were a part of. Man, back in the early day, we kind of reinvigorated MetaMask, right? From there, we were one of the very first people to use Uniswap. We had over 40% of the volume for the first 5-6 months that Uniswap was out. We made them popular, and we got airdrops because of it. We were one of the first groups of people to use ZK rollups. I forget what the wallet was. It was not Atomic Wallet, but there was a wallet that did like 60,000 wallets got a sprinkling of Hex using ZK rollups. It was one of the first ones to do it and use it. We got that airdrop. We got, what did we get? Pulse Doge or Pulse,
I was going to say that. I was actually going to say that.
Pulse Doge. We all got that airdrop. We all got an airdrop of Texan token. We got stuff for sacrificing. We got the weight token. We got there's been so many things that we've been a part of. And it's pretty cool. If you just pay attention, there's always going to be rewards. You get Hedron for staking Hex. You get Icosa for staking Hedron. You get, so there's just things that build on top of it. And, you know, it's been a pretty cool ride to get all these airdrops. And it was one of the injection points in Hex's price whenever the Uniswap airdrop came out, because so many people got it, sold it, boom, bought Hex. And the price really reflected in the Hex chart, along with, you know, it did hurt the Uniswap price as well at the same time, but, you know, it recovered. I forget, you know, we got, most of us got $3,000 to $6,000 worth of Uniswap at that point. So all of those free airdrops coming into Hex is, you know, it'd be nice to think that this safe airdrop would, a lot of the stakers would put it in there, but, you know, things are a little different now, and we've got a lot of other things to spread your money around with. So unfortunately, I don't know that we'll really see a increase in price because of this. I don't know how many people will actually claim it, but just again, the moral of the story is be safe. Don't click on anything you don't know, and if you didn't claim it, don't even bother going in to try it. You're just going to get yourself in trouble clicking on something you really shouldn't click on.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it is cool though. I mean, yeah, you're right. We've had so many different airdrops and stuff like that for this ecosystem, you know,
Yeah,
just
been really
continuously.
cool.
So yeah. Communis, I mean, that wasn't necessarily an airdrop, I guess. I don't think ever, but I mean, yeah, if you had existing Hex stakes, you could mint that and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, lots of stuff out there. So good stuff. Appreciate that from you, Ewok. And I guess we just finish up by checking back with our poll. So, and I think maybe some people don't realize what the first option would eventually mean. But so what BTC scenario would you prefer for this bull market that we've already topped for 2024? 11% only are choosing that. New high around 90K in the fall, 56%. So the majority of people want that. That would be basically the normal right translated cycle option. And then finally 33% selected blow off top in late 2024, which would be like the final, like final, it's crazy, but final already because it would be a left translated cycle. Yeah, it would be, that would be unique, and so would the first option of you know, that we've already topped for the year. So I mean, we will see. I think that would be super interesting if we got that, but not a lot of people are betting on it or apparently even wanting it to happen. So that's where we're at. We continue to kind of march on in this market. You know, I mean, we've seen some good things this year. You know, it's really hard to do this, I know, but zooming out and trying to just see that like we are at least in like dip buying mode now, not like I'm catching a falling knife mode, you know, as far as this market goes. So yeah. Any final thoughts from
Likewise.
you, Ewok?
Yeah, likewise. I'm just happy to see a nice consolidation sideways rather than, like you said, a bunch of just falling knives. I think we're getting to that point where we are washing people out. Needed to happen. Needed to get rid of them now. Otherwise, it would have been a very long road ahead of us. But we're almost
Right.
there, and I really think, you know, within a few weeks, you're going to see a difference in price. You're going to start to see sentiment change, kind of like I said, with the you know, 90 days after having. Things do turn around, and you're going to see the overall sentiment, even though it's not going to be crazy parabolic stuff. You're going to see slow increases to the point where you look back and you're like, holy crap, we're up $10,000, and it didn't really feel like it. It just kind of crept up there on a little slow trajectory. And I think that's kind of the way, you know, the majority of the rest of the year is going to play out for a lot of things. And then next year's when it really happens. But again, right now, if you're not loading up your bags and catching some of these prices that we may never get back to again, you know, it's your own fault. And I can't help you any more than that.
Yep. I agree with you. Appreciate that, Nicholas Carte, sorry, Best Weekly Crypto Show. We appreciate that. We do this every Wednesday night at 6:30 Eastern PM time. I don't know why I said that way. But yeah, terrific show. Shout out producer Jake for producing the show tonight. He did a great job. We have got, appreciate all you guys too. DJ and Moonboy, of course, Rocket, Hex Girl, who else we have? Not a super diverse chat tonight, but that's okay. We're not the diversity police here. Whatever you happen to be is fine with us. Yo Mackie, KD, Ben, Philly earlier in the show, Pulse Believer. We appreciate all you guys. But yeah, great show indeed. And yeah, we're going to be back here next Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So for Crypto Ewok, this has been Broke by Crypto. We'll see you guys next week right here on the Creed of Crypto live stream. See you guys.